by Michael. Welcome to the Taming the FamilySearch Goliath class series. As you begin this series, you should have downloaded and printed 2 class handouts for Class 1. The handouts are offered for download at www.tinyurl.com/Taming Goliath. It is easier for enthusiastic beginners to succeed in family history research now than ever before, thanks to 2 online resources. The first is online databases like FamilySearch Family Tree. They permit us to learn from other researchers who share some of our ancestors. The second is indexed vital records we can access online. They help us discover and confirm husband-wife and child-parent relationships. Our topic in Class 1 is indexing vital records. It will be presented by Michael McKinnon, a highly experienced records indexer and arbitrator. Here's Michael.
Thank you, Carol. FamilySearch indexing is a way of being able to pay it forward and help fuel the find so that you can look things up on the internet rather than having to look through images and microfilms. When you sign in to FamilySearch or go to FamilySearch.org, you'll notice that there is a welcome screen, and on that screen near the bottom is a box called indexing. There's also a box that I've highlighted at the top tab that is indexing. As of October 14th, 2016, this shows how many records have been indexed, how many are waiting for arbitration, and the total number of contributors in 2016 that have helped in this process. So you're joining an elite group. This video shows
The major events of your ancestors' lives have likely been recorded and preserved on paper for hundreds of years. These records are probably hidden away in government archives or church basements. FamilySearch has been working since 1894 to preserve these historic records against damage or loss, so that people like you can discover the story of their family's history. To do this, FamilySearch stores a photographed copy of these records in a safe place where the effects of time no longer damage records. Billions of records are currently stored on microfilm, and now FamilySearch is collecting and storing images in digital form. Millions of these records are also now published online for everyone to freely access. Pictures are nice, but to really be helpful, the information in these images needs to be searchable by computer. This is accomplished through a process called indexing, and it's something computers can't do. Thankfully, hundreds of thousands of volunteers, young and old, are already coming to the rescue. In just minutes at a time, they read the digital images and type the information they see. FamilySearch then saves the information in a freely searchable online database called FamilySearch.org. Now millions of people can easily find their ancestors thanks to the efforts of people just like you. That's great, but guess what? The digital images are stacking up faster than the current indexers can handle. More helpers are needed now. With your help and the help of your family and friends, the monumental task of making the world's historic records searchable online will be accomplished. Will you help make a difference? Well, you can by becoming an online volunteer indexer today.
That was kind of interesting. Apologize for the video. The computer can't keep up apparently. On the indexing screen, there are several things here that are provided to help. One is the test drive, get started, find a project, and get help. We'll go through this an item at a time. As we get started with indexing, one of the things that needs to be done is to download the software. It's found on the Get Started page, and there's a link that when you click on it, it will download and run the software for you and put an icon on your desktop.
So, you want to be an indexer. Great!
We'll
Let's get you started. The first thing you'll need is the indexing software. Here's the Get Started page. Now, just click that Download button, follow the instructions, and you'll be up and running in no time. See the new icon on your desktop? Just double-click and sign in with your username and password. What was that? You don't have a username yet? Just click this button and fill out the information. Don't forget to go to your personal email account and click the activation link that gets sent to you. Then, open the indexing program again and sign in with your username and password. Now, join your friends in your LDS stake, genealogical society, or other indexing group. One more thing. Read the software terms and conditions and click this button right here. Hooray! Now you're an indexer. To learn how to download your first badge and start indexing, watch our next training video and just have fun.
You can select the project that you would like to index based upon country that are shown here on the screen, or you can select them based upon projects. And as you go through the indexing process, you're going to find from time to time that you need some help. There are 4 places on the sign-in screen that you can get help. One is found on this menu under Indexing, Help Resources. There's one up in the corner that says Get Help, and there's one at this point that says Get Help. All 3 icons or tabs have the same Get Help menu to them. So if you forget one, you should be able to get the other. 2 of the help things that are very helpful as we index, one of them is handwriting helps. If you can't read the scribbles, they're there for you. There's another one that is the basic indexing guidelines. That's part of your handout. It tells what the basic guidelines are for indexing. There are individual guidelines for each badge, and that's found in Field Help, but we'll get to that later. On the language and handwriting help, it provides, in this case, a secretary hand, English, and shows letter variations for the capitals and for the lowercase letters. English is not the only language that is covered. You can also do Dutch, and you can see the list here, and it will provide the resources that help you read those. If you need Old English, it would be here. Some of the other things are there as well. The basic indexing guidelines, those 6 pages, are boiled down on this slide. Basically, you type what you see. You don't assume. You don't assume names based upon abbreviations or gender. And if a name is something like John, you don't assume that the gender is male. If it's not written on the form, you don't do it. On places, you look at the field helps. On some, it says, don't just record what you see, don't make any assumptions. And other places on field helps, different projects, it will say that if you know the name of the place and can spell it correctly, go ahead and do it. On punctuation, we use no punctuations except for the Apostrophe. That would be used in things like O'Brien, if it were Irish. The other one is a dash. If there's a dash in a surname, then you can use a dash. Other than that, no punctuation. If information is crossed out, and they just put a line through it that indicates they think it's wrong, but haven't put an alternative above it, then you type what was crossed out. If it's crossed out and there's something above it, then you put in what was above it. If there's a ditto sign under surnames or something else, then in the subsequent fields, you type in what is being dittoed. In the names that you can't quite make out what the letters are, you can use a question mark for one character, and you can use an asterisk for more than one character. If there is an asterisk before the field name, then it has to have something in that field. It cannot be left blank. If it is blank, then you use a Control B or a blank from the indexing screen. Pay attention to overlays. Pay attention to the field type. A duplicate is an exact copy of the information on either the previous or another image that's in that batch. It's not something that has been formatted differently, and so it's not an exact copy. A duplicate is when the photographer took two images of the same image because he thought one would be too light or he wiggled or something else. If there are two forms of the name in the record or on the image, use the one that's most complete. If there was only William W.M. put down and no William, the W-I-L-L-I-A-M, you would use the abbreviation. If there are two surnames after a lady, one her maiden name and then the surname of her husband, you put her name first, surname first, and then the surname of her husband, if that's what the field helps ask you to do. If you see the name spelled differently, but it looks like the same name, then you put the first form that you saw and put an or between the two names, so it's either William or Bill. Dates generally use the early date, and if it's in context. If it's looking for a marriage date and it has the day that the application was made, you would use the marriage date. If the marriage date was not there, then you would use when the application was made out. On years or age, you use full years, no guesses, and you don't calculate. So if someone is 9 months old, they're 0. If you've got a birth date and a death date, you don't have an age. They will be able to look at the same image that you have indexed, and they can make that information from themselves. To get started indexing, assume that you've put the software on your computer. You go and you click the icon that says FamilySearch Indexing. This will bring up if you don't have this icon, you can go to FamilySearch, you can click on Indexing, click on the Get Started. That will take you to a place that you can download the indexing software. The icon will then appear on your home page, and you can click on the icon. You only have to download it once, not with every batch. Then you sign in using your username and password. and you download a batch. And if you like to see batches that have English, German, Portuguese, Russian, Czech, and Japanese and Chinese each time, then you can do this. If you want to see the ones you want to index, you can click this. If you've set your preferences, it will take you to the ones you like. So you have to edit the preferences. And you click on Edit My Preferences. It takes you to a sign-in page. Then you can edit your preferences by indicating which level that would you like and which language and some other things. After you've done that, then you can show your preferences, and I've got all English because that's what I can do, and then it indicates the level. And you'll find that the level is not always indicative of the difficulty of the handwriting. You download the batch after you've signed in to indexing, download them. It will take you automatically to an indexing page. When you decide you want to quit, you can quit. And it will be there waiting for you for about 7 days for you to finish it. There are some tools on this page that are helpful to you. I guess we see those later. Marriage records. Occasionally there'll be an overlay, and you pay attention to what the information is on how to index it. There are some images that span 2 images. Big ledger books, they'll take a picture of the right-hand side, then a picture of the left-hand side. If the left-hand side or right-hand side happens to be a continuation of what's on the left, then you need to consider both images. I've loaded a New Hampshire marriage record. There are some helps for this. This happens not to be a marriage record fully because it has his father's name and the father's occupation, has the mother's name down further for the bride, for the groom. Doesn't mention the bride or the groom. But we don't get excited at this point because this is one of those that the front had the good information on, the back didn't. But we need this information as well. There are some helps on this page. Located up in this top corner, you'll see the file allows you to close the batch. It allows you to return the batch. If you look at it and say, that would give me a headache, I don't want to do it, but it looks like it could be done, then feel free to come and return the batch. You can share the batch. You come and click on Share Batch. It will give you a number. You can send that to somebody that can look at the batch, and you can share information with it. And a submit and an exit. Under the edit, there's undo, redo, copy, cut and paste, clear field, clear record, ditto record. You can read the rest. Under view, show previous, our next image, show the ruler, zoom in, zoom out, rotate. It's irritating to try to read a record that's laying on its side. You can do a mirror. You can invert the image so that it has white text on a black background. And you can play with the brightness and contrast so that the image and the information will stick out a little better. There are some tools. You'll find in some records that there are more than one thing that is calling for on the image. And so you can go and you can set the number of records per image that you're indexing. If there were 4 on the page, you can put down 4. and tell it to make it that way for all of them. And under at the bottom there are two things that are quite helpful. One of them is if you have characters that have accent marks associated with them, you can come here and click on that character and it will put it in the record for you for the indexing. The other is this quill pen and an ink bottle. When you click on it, it brings up some handwriting help. It's not as good a help as you can get from coming to help and looking for handwriting help. But it's quick. I found one of the best ways to determine what the letters are is to look at the rest of the record and maybe look at a record before and a record after, and then rule out what is not. So we go back to the other record that we had, and it's actually a 2 record. So I've got the name of the groom and the name of the bride. The field helps tell me that on this type of record that I bring up the next image so I can get to the parents' names, and I record that all on one line. And then when I get to this image, which will be the next image, I just say that there's no extractable information on that image because I've already entered it. This happens occasionally. You need to be aware of it. When you get all done, it will want to do a quality check. And you can see these records that are pink, or the entries that are pink. What that means is, in this particular project, the computer has not seen that spelling of that name or place. It doesn't mean that it's wrong, it just means the computer hasn't seen it previously. And so you can then say, that's fine, I accept that, and the quality check moves on and you get to say okay, and it sends it in. Here is another one that was sent back to be re-indexed because somebody didn't do it using both images. Now we get to one that is a lovable record, a little challenging on the handwriting. If I blow this area up over here, I see some names that I'm not really familiar with, and I don't like the handwriting, but there's a little thing down under the bride's surname. I've taken this one, and if you click this down arrow or caret at the end of the field, or if when you got this field highlighted, you click a Control F, it brings up a lookup which says, can you tell me what it started with? Can you tell me what it ends with? And there's a field for something in between. So I have said, that looks like an S. I can see a dot, so that must be an I. And it sure looks like an ing on the end. When I click on that, it brings up a list of words that have this criteria in the word. And sometimes it's helpful. This one looks like shilling, so I say accept, and it puts shilling in the field. This is a marriage record that has 2 marriage records, one on page 60, one on page 62, all contained in one image. This one was sent back because somebody took the image and said one page was empty. They may have been looking at this page, and so the record is empty. Or they may have said, they may have looked at that a little differently and had some difficulty with it. It's not enough. So if I were to be indexing, I would look for the icon on the page. There's the icon. I double click on it. If you've been using it frequently, it doesn't do the downloading very often. Brings up the place to sign in. I did the previous slides because I'm not real trusting sometimes of the internet. It will give you a tip. It says down here that they're a little behind on arbitrating marriage records. So I could download an indexing batch, but I have got some batches up here that are arbitration, and we'll bring one of those down so you can see what the arbitrator gets to do. So it's got an overlay, and it says about what to do with images or records that span 2 images. You close that. Now, as an arbitrator, I would go through and make sure that somebody hasn't, one indexer, and the A indexer has not chosen a different order for the indexing than the B. Generally doesn't happen on marriage records. Look at the header information normal, then look at the arbitration, and you can see if it's got an image thing over here, a balance, that there must be something different between the two. And so I've got that the bride's father's name, so I come and look for the bride's father's name. His given name is Jonathan, should have an R, and then what's this? If I don't know, I come here and I click, I go to a lookup, and they have got Atwood. If I choose those, it looks like there's definitely a T. Now I come to Atwood, I can choose it, and I can accept. And then I move to the next one. The event date is typically date of marriage. And this, it says 18, probably 96. Somebody's finger slipped. And I go through and finish records doing that. And when I'm tired, or I've had enough, then I can close it. And it takes me back to where I was, and it's still there. So I can go back and do it at a later time. These indicate, the ones down here indicate they need to be done by November 7th, or they go back to FamilySearch to be given to somebody else. This one that's in black that we did has got an extra 2 days. And that's why we've got the red and the black up above. You can go to your history and see what you have been doing in the month and the quarter. These are, if I'm doing a batch that has a difficulty level of 3, then I get 3 points for each one that I do. The actual number that have been arbitrated is down here, and the actual number that's been indexed. There is also an opportunity for you to check your work. You can come and you can review your batches. Some I did better on than others. We'll go to this one that has opportunity for a little more quality control maybe. And so what it shows is the information that's on the first page. We'll see if we get. So I can't really see on this one because things that it disagrees with are on the second half of this image, unfortunately. But it'll let you see what my value was and then what the arbitrator thought that it ought to have been. So I put in 2 L's for Matilda, and the arbitrator thought there was 1 L. Still Matilda. This lets you take a look at what your value was and the value that was selected by the arbitrator, whether that was the other person that indexed it or whether it was the arbitrator looking at it and deciding that he thought it was something different than the 2 people that indexed it. And when you get tired of, or when you've done enough, then you can come back to your indexing and proceed. For downloading a batch, I've got opportunity for Japanese, Russian, Czech, German. My preferences put it so that it is all English. If you have the capability of reading a language other than English, it's really a benefit to do the language that you're competent in that is non-English. There are a few of those folks indexing and arbitrating. So I will open it up to questions.
When you're actually done with the batch, you finish the batch, ready to submit, how do you get out of it without leaving that batch still active, telling it that it's
when I get through with the batch, with this batch and through arbitrating it, I can come down and I can submit the completed work to the server. It will go through this. It will bring up a quality check. When it has completed the quality check, then there'll be a message in this part of your screen that says submit. You click that and then it will say thank you for submitting. And if that doesn't work, you come down and you click this and it makes it go. If I come across a record that is only partially, the two indexers, one of them has done what they were supposed to and the other one has only taken the bride or groom's name and put on it, I can come and I can click this and send it back to be re-indexed. So whatever you do is making a contribution. When this is sent out to be re-indexed, you'll see what the previous person has done and check it and then finish it. And it only sends the one that the arbitrator tells to send back. On the field helps, if we are looking at something like the town and you're not sure what you're supposed to do, you can come to field helps and it will tell you the information for that particular batch. And give you some examples. The project instructions are general, and they also have some that are specific to this particular project. The general ones are in your handout. These are specific to the project you're indexing. And it has projects that span 2 records. Which shows how to do that. Here's a sample. Anything else that somebody would like to know? The first couple of images that you index will be kind of selected by FamilySearch, and they will be very simple, typically. And after that, you get to select your own. So I thank you for your attention and for the opportunity of presenting this. If anyone would like to come in for individual help, I'm generally here on Monday afternoons and Tuesday evenings and would be glad to help you individually.
Thank you, Brother McKinnon. That was a great class. With your step-by-step instructions and just a little practice on our part, we can join the army of volunteers that are helping to make printed vital records available online. Class 2 in this series is a quick start guide for those who are new to FamilySearch Family Tree, so they can benefit fully from classes 3 through 9. It will include getting a password, an orientation to the family page, to the person page, and strategies to connect your closest deceased ancestors to existing data in the database. Our presenter will be Carol Devine. We hope you'll join us. This series of 9 classes is hosted by West Richland Stake of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and was taped before a live audience at the Richland Family History Center, Washington in November 2016. Thanks for attending.